if you look at my screen, I started this entire blog as a portfolio because as a leader, I felt that kids having a portfolio would be extremely beneficial. And so we talked about it every year, and we would say, you know, let's do this next year. Let's have a digital portfolio, and nothing would ever get done. And this was as a teacher, and this was my fault as a principal. So one year I said, you know what, if we're going to get this done, I have to figure this out first so that I can speak to it and speak to not only how to do it technically, but how it improves my learning. And so I actually know this, I feel I know this inside out because I've been doing it for 3 years now, which actually just started as an experiment. So it's extremely powerful. And so what I would hope for any leader is to look at it in 2 different ways. This is a portfolio in the learning sense, where here's what I'm learning today, and here's where I'm continuing to grow, and it just continues on and on. And the learning portion of the portfolio is in my blog post. So they obviously go in reverse chronological order. So, for example, every week I share some posts that I read, and you can see them here. And this is such a great practice for me because as a principal, as in my role, people usually can figure out what I'm looking at and what I'm researching, as opposed to, surprise, here's this new initiative that we're doing. They can see the development of my thoughts, they can see the development of my ideas, and they can jump into the conversation at any time. So you'll see recently on Sunday, I wrote this post, and here's something I'm learning about. And you'll see that I actually shared a song that I love, because I think that there's some elements of sharing your personal self to connect with people. Then I tie some learning into something that I noticed around society and how it ties into what I learned. And so this is that idea of that learning portfolio all over the place. Hi, Angela Mears. Nice to see you. Thank goodness you got the time zone right. So if you look at this, this is that learning portfolio. Now the showcase is in these links here. This is my work. So here's something that I've done. Here's, you know, basically cover letters. Here's where I'm at. Here's my resume. And all of the sessions I'm going to post onto my blog over this as well. But I'm going to focus specifically on the principal quality standard. And so I can share some links to help you actually go through the aspects, but I just wanted to show you what it could look like. So if you look at the principal quality standard, I apologize. If you look at the principal quality standard, in Alberta, we have these 7 dimensions. And so this is what we would call the showcase portion of your portfolio. Here's my best work in this area. And so these skills can totally go down to your teachers using certain standards, and your students. Most importantly, I do this because we want to implement this with our students. And in Parkland School Division, we are now at the process where we're going to have 10,000 kids have their own portfolio of learning that will follow them from kindergarten to grade 12. And they'll showcase their learning, but they're building digital footprints. They're doing amazing things, exploring how they learn. But they're also going to be able to showcase and say, here's what I did in kindergarten, here's what I did in grade 1. I missed something? For example, this is where that showcase happens. So if you are in Alberta, this is a no-brainer. You can use these dimensions. I know I worked with Patrick Larkin's group, and they have their own dimensions that they use. So if you are in a province or a state or country that does not use standards, feel free to use Alberta Education as your standards and say how you meet these qualities. But most schools will have some expectations of what they're doing. And the other thing that we want to focus on is that when we do evaluations with teachers and we talk with them, That it's not a principal saying, here's what I saw you did. It is the teacher saying, here is the work that I've done to meet these qualities. That they're actually thinking about how they meet these qualities before you have a conversation with them. And that is effective learning. If you think about this in learning, if you can actually have a kid tell you how they have been successful, that is better than you telling them that themselves, right? You want them having self-evaluation and talking about all of this different work. So that's what we're trying to shift, is that the conversation starts with the learner, not the person evaluating. And I think that is so important. So I look at these standards. So I'm actually going to click on fostering effective relationships. And this is one of the standards. And I think it's a powerful example and very simple. Here's what I do. Title of the quality of what I'm looking for. And then if you actually look in this portion right here, you will see, can you see, if you just give me a quick smiling face if you can see that what I've highlighted. Okay, perfect. Thanks, David. If you look here I am listing the criteria of what I'm trying to do. So here is the criteria that I'm doing this. You can transfer this to principal, teacher, superintendent, student, anybody in any work that they're doing. Here is what is expected of me, okay? So what I do is list that, and then I say, here's how I met the criteria. And I'll give you an example. This very first one, this one's about fostering effective relationships. And in the very first thing I believe it is always beneficial to take time to work with students to simply have fun. And the idea, thanks Chris, I saw that, is that when I connect these criteria, it's not just me saying I'm good at this stuff. I can actually have links of people talking about these different things. So if you click on this very first link, this actually leads you to a teacher that worked for in my building with me and told the story and blogged about how I connected with his students just to come out and play basketball. And that's probably when I could actually come close to touching the rim. So it's a little bit a ways away, but you're basically embedding live cover letters into your thing that people are writing about you. So it's not just me saying, yes, I build relationships. It's, yes, I build relationships, and here is proof of how I've done this. And I think that's extremely important that you can connect to those ideas. And not only are you showing written examples, but you can actually talk about examples using video, different types of multimedia, and embedding that into your practice. Now, I always talk about how this would be beneficial to the students, and I use this example over and over again, and I apologize, many of you have probably heard me say something similar to this. Instead of me actually talking and saying, for a kid who is applying to be, work in for a mechanic, instead of a kid saying, yes, I can do an oil change, if a kid does a portfolio, they can make a video of them actually going through the steps of making an oil change. To me, that is a no-brainer of who I would hire. Even if the one kid could do it better, I can see the evidence that the kid is actually able to do this. And I think that this will give our students a huge advantage when they go out into whatever field that they're interested in, because it gives evidence and it's easy. It's not that giant paper portfolio that someone walks in and drops on your desk when you only have an hour to talk to them. It actually shows this, and it can be accessed from anywhere. And it's open and it's public. So for each one of these, I talk about the different things that I do. So there's 7 standards. I talk about each one. So I'm not going to go into depth about this, but I'm going to show you how I connect the learning portfolio to the showcase portfolio. So if you actually look at these 7 standards here, and you go back to this portfolio, you'll look at my first post, and I take what's called categories, and I link them to my my different pages. So one of the criteria is that I embody visionary leadership. So anytime that I write a post, it is categorized that it has met one of those 7 standards. And how many of you or how many of your teachers can actually tell you the standards that they're expected to meet? And I think that's important. And I blog about them and I write about them and I say, oh yeah, this fits in here. And you think about this in the student context, where a student is writing something about math problem solving and using something like this, and they write a story about a problem, and they actually realize, you know what, I use science and language arts in that. And you'll see that this doesn't just fit one category, but I'm making the connection. This is also leading a learning community. This is also providing instructional leadership. So I'm meeting, through this, I'm actually talking about different categories, and I'm making the connection. So we want the same opportunity for our kids where they are making a cross-curricular connection to the work that they're doing. And you'll see that in every single one of my posts. The other benefit of this is that you are learning openly. I don't do this to toot my own horn, but I do this to share and actually put my ideas out there, because very smart people, and a ton of them are actually in this room, can challenge me or give me different ideas or give me different looks, so I can be better for my teachers, so I can be better for my school district, and most importantly, so I can be better for my kids. And if I just leave those ideas in my head, they might, to me, seem awesome, but when I put them out there, that is when they truly become powerful. That is when they truly become stronger, because I get to tap into the wisdom of so many people. And I think that is, that's going to be a theme that goes over and over again over the next 9 weeks, of how you can tap in and learn from so many people. And it also archives everything I do. How many of you can actually Google the work that you do? So anytime I'm like, I remember writing something about that or posting about that, I just throw my name into Google, George Couros, and then some keywords. And I can find my work and share it easily, as opposed to going through all these files and whatever. Like the best search, why not tap into the best search engine in the world with Google and actually find your work and be able to share it easily? If you look at the showcase portfolio, I talk about, here's the criteria that I've asked to meet, but also here are all the blog posts I've written, and it takes care. And you'll see every single blog post that has something to do with fostering effective relationships. And you can see this, and I can go through this and go back and learn from the work that I've done. And so don't think of this as like bragging. Think about this as learning openly. Think about this as sharing. But also there's an opportunity for you to really develop and your thoughts. And it scares me when a leader says, I don't blog because I don't have anything valuable to say. If you don't have anything valuable to say, it really worries me that you are leading a school or an administrator. You should have some vision. You should have different things that are out there. And I see Angela, great point. For me, I actually have to, once I write it, it becomes part of my learning. It becomes solid, and I make strong connections. And so I think that is extremely important to doing this. And I don't know if my superintendent is still in the room, but I know he watches me blog during my work, but I believe that this is part of your work. This isn't in addition to your work, that you need to take time to reflect to get better. And why would you not embed part of that in your week, in your day, to actually become a stronger leader?